We have about 280 or 290 cars here as we speak, and a few more. We expect a few more before the end of the day today.
And here we have one of the largest bug shows in North America.
Motoring 93 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil. And Midas, your under-the-car specialists for imports and domestics.
I don't think it really matters where you live. The summer of '92 will go down as one of the strangest as far as weather. I mean, here in the province of Ontario, they recorded their coldest and wettest summer since the turn of the century. But as you can see, nobody is complaining about the weather here today. Where we are is Wasaga Beach on Georgian Bay, and everybody is celebrating what has to be the best weekend of the summer. But there's another celebration going on here. It's a celebration of one of the world's classic automobiles.
The sun worshippers had every inch of Wasaga Beach staked out, and everyone came dressed for the occasion. But even the girl and boy watchers couldn't keep their eyes off the road. They sensed there was something different about this weekend other than the good weather. They were right. The Corvettes had arrived.
This is Beach Cruise 92, sponsored by ourselves, Wasaga Beach Corvette Club, and the Dardanella. And we're here at Wasaga Beach with Corvette owners from Ontario area and further afield. And we have about 280 or 290 cars here as we speak, and a few more. We expect a few more before the end of the day today. Well, we started this last year, and this is really only our second effort at it. This is about twice as big as last year's, and we think in a way here we have a tiger by the tail. We're really hoping that it'll grow even more next year, and we're making more plans as we go through this year's event.
Well, we're really happy to be part of the event. We're surprised the size of the event this year. We're really happy to be part of it. And from a GM perspective, sure. I mean, we see a good cross section of our customers, and of course that helps in making decisions for the future. There's tradition involved with the Corvette, and I think that's what attracts a lot of people. As you can see here today, like we got from 1953 to 1992, and it's really interesting to see, again, the customers that associate with these particular vehicles. And you're right, there is a love affair, and a lot of people are interested in just keeping the love affair going, obviously, as we can see here today.
The car is a 1963 Corvette. 63 was the only year they had a split window Corvette. The car is also unique because it has the highest horsepower engine, a 360 horse 327. It's all original. It's probably the only one in Canada like it that's original and here in this country. Most of them are down south in the States. So it's kind of unique.
What made it such a special car in '63?
The reason is because it had the only split window in the car, and as well as a fuel-injected car, and there's less than 2,600 of them made and probably 400 or 500 of them left that have the real motor in the car. All original. It's 100% original with a drivetrain.
I wanted to buy it from you. What would you charge me?
$80,000, $90,000, somewhere around there, but it's not for sale.
We have a 54 with us today, and it's a pretty rare car, and we're really pleased that that fellow decided to come. We had to talk him into it. It's his wife's birthday today, and we suggested to him that taking his wife to the beach for her birthday would be a good idea. That's a beautiful old car, but it's really from the time when people believed that everybody would have a private rocket ship someday. It's kind of an interesting car to look at that way.
Is the Corvette, is it sometimes a love-hate relationship with people? Either they love it or they just hate it?
That's, I guess Alfa Romeo owners don't like Corvettes very much, but you don't find too many people who aren't interested in asking you about your car and how long you've had it and what year it is and so on. Most people seem to be interested in them. I think mainly because they're American. People see it as a symbol of what's good about America, strength and power and so on, this kind of thing.
When we come back, we'll take a look at the latest soft-top Caddy.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we look at the flagship of the Cadillac lineup. This is the 1993 Allante, a car that Cadillac bill as America's only two-seater roadster. It also happens to be a mantle that this car bears very well.
The suspension on the Allante features McPherson struts up front and an independent short long arm setup in back with sway bars at both ends. The ace up the sleeve, however, is the addition of Cadillac's road sensing suspension system. Now, while the system is not active by nature, it does offer many of the advantages in a cheaper, less sophisticated form. The system monitors wheel position and body motion. After deciphering the information, it changes the damping characteristics from soft to firm or vice versa, depending on need. This new system switches back and forth between settings in the blink of an eye. Now, technically, that's about 15 milliseconds. Unlike many other setups of similar intent, it is next to impossible to detect the switch in the Allante, a trait I find highly desirable. During the pylon test, the car tracked a fairly clean, precise line with virtually no body roll whatsoever. However, the amount of cowl shake dissuades the driver from putting the suspension to the full test.
Now, when I road test convertibles, I talk a lot about torsional rigidity or cowl shake. Now, I can demonstrate exactly what that is using this shoebox. With the lid on, the resistance to the twisting motion end to end is quite substantial. However, take the lid off and we now have a convertible shoebox. The resistance to the twist has gone. It's very flimsy. Now, in the Cadillac, what they've done, they've reinforced the chassis, which helps to eliminate a lot of that movement, but unfortunately it doesn't eliminate it all. The next time I road test a convertible and I refer to torsional rigidity or cowl shake, the shoebox will help you understand.
Elsewhere, the Allante features Bosch's second-generation traction control system. This system is really appreciated given the enormous amount of power available. The system works using a combination of brake application and power interruption. In severe cases of traction loss, the system can shut down as many as 5 cylinders as well as applying the brakes. The result is a very well-balanced car rather than a car that gets bent out of shape because of a sudden loss of grip.
The dashboard on the Allante is a digital one that's been disguised to resemble an analog one. Now, the problem with it is, with the top down on a sunny day, it washes out to such an extent that it's almost impossible to read. The other thing is, these 3 gauges here are hidden by the steering wheel rim. Now, to the right of that is a bank of buttons that numbers no fewer than 44. Now, the good thing about it is, or I guess the lucky thing I should say, is that you only need to use about 6 of them while you're driving. The remainder can be left for show or to impress your passenger.
Any question about the motive power Cadillac install in their cars has been thoroughly quashed with the introduction of this totally new North Star engine. As such, this engine is the real story of the new Allante. Not only is this one of the most sophisticated and powerful engines around, boasting 4 cams, 32 valves and tune port injection, it is also remarkably smooth and responsive. All 295 horses and 290 pounds-feet of torque come online in exactly the right amounts at exactly the right time. Nudge the gas pedal and the car takes off like a scolded cat. Matched with this wonderful engine is a 4-speed automatic overdrive transmission, complete with a lock-up torque converter. The shifts are smooth and well coordinated, and kickdowns when needed are prompt and not at all abrupt. During the test, we recorded a fairly thirsty 14 litres per 100 kilometres or 20 miles per gallon. I say thirsty because about 70% of the distance covered was on the highway.
Raising and lowering the top on the Allante is accomplished very easily. First of all, you release the back section here, which I've already done. You then pop the rear cover, release the front, which again I've already done, drop the whole lot down into there, close the top. As simple as that. Now the problem is, there's 2 holes left and you're supposed to put these 2 pieces in. Now first of all, they're awkward to put in, and secondly, because there's no proper storage space or protection package for these things, the risk of damage is quite high. Now inside, they've thought to put in some nice storage space here. The center console and the glove box are both fully lockable, so the security with the top down is very good on this car.
The real glass rear window is a definite plus because it houses a proper defroster. Rearward visibility and a soft top with a plastic window has always been a bone of contention. This eliminates that aspect of soft top motoring.
I believe I've made it obvious. I think this North Star engine is one of the best engines in the world. It's powerful, it's very smooth, and it's a very willing performer. Summing up the Allante is very easy too. This car adds a touch of elegance to ragtop motoring. Next week on Test Drive, we look at the 1993 Subaru Legacy wagon. It looks mean even standing still, a 59 Corvette. And check out these ram tubes for the fuel injectors. Now, they're nice to look at, but they're a lot more fun to listen to. Aaron, crank her up. You gotta love it. And I know one man who will love it. I know a man who's worked on a few vets in his lifetime, and that's our resident mechanic, Bill Gardner. Here's Bill.
Up close like this, you may not realize what you're actually looking at, but it's an automatic transmission. Now, when you're sitting inside a vehicle, I'm sure you realize that that large bump or hump on the floor pan between the driver's and passenger's feet is the area that's bumped up or pushed out to accommodate the bulk of the transmission. Now, on a rear-wheel drive vehicle, that is primarily what that's for. Now, many front-wheel drive vehicles have that bump in the floor as well, but in their case, it's usually just an exhaust pipe or some cables or minor plumbing running down there. And the bump in the floor does add a lot of stiffness and rigidity to the floor pan of the car, so it's still there. But on a rear-wheel drive vehicle like a full-size car or this pickup truck, that bump is purely to accommodate the transmission. Now, we want to go to the bench and have a look at one of these units disassembled. This one happens to be an overdrive or 4-speed automatic transmission with a lock-up torque converter, and that's common to just about any of today's rear-wheel drive vehicles. Now, what you're looking at here on the bench is a totally disassembled 4-speed automatic, exactly like that one you just saw in the pickup truck on the hoist. Now, one of the first things you realize from a shot like this is just how complex and involved this assembly is. And we just don't have time to detail the operation of each and every component in here. But some of the key things that differentiate an automatic from a standard transmission are the amount of fluid that's involved. On an automatic, we've got 8 to 10 liters of automatic transmission fluid. And that fluid is not only used for lubrication and cooling as it is in a standard transmission, but in an automatic, it's put under pressure by this unit, the internal pump in the transmission. And the fluid is then used as a power transmission medium in the torque converter, and it's used to apply and release a series of servos, bands, and pistons inside the transmission to give us all those different forward ranges as well as reverse, and to allow us to come to a complete stop with the engine still idling without having to use a clutch. Now, some of the other components that are unique to an automatic transmission is the type of clutches used. Now, this is a clutch pack in an automatic, and you can see how small it is. It's a multi-disc wet plate clutch. This is totally involved with oil or transmission fluid bathing these clutches. And we have a friction disc, a steel disc, a friction, a steel, and so forth stacked up inside a drum. And we can apply pressure to those clutch discs to alternately lock them and release them to get our different gear ranges. Now, another thing unique to automatics is the band. You've probably heard that term mentioned before, and in many cases bands are adjustable. Now, it's just a thin piece of steel, flexible steel, and you can see the friction material that faces or lines the inside of this band, and when the band's applied, that friction material will stop a drum that's revolving around inside. When it's released, it'll allow the drum to turn. Now, another thing unique to automatics is the planetary gear set. That's one right there that's in good shape. And we have a second planetary gear set in this 4-speed automatic, and it's totally ruined. That's why this one came in and why it's stripped down and disassembled. That planetary gear set is no longer usable, and that's a very expensive component to replace in a transmission. That's one of the reasons why many of today's overdrive or 4-speed automatics are extremely expensive. Several $1,000s for a rebuild such as this is not uncommon today. Whereas 8 to 10 years ago with the old 3-speed simple type automatic transmissions, a few $100s, $300 or $400 wasn't uncommon to rebuild a transmission. Today, you're looking at an awful lot more. So next week, we want to talk about some of the preventive maintenance items inside that transmission and how you can maybe make that automatic transmission last the entire life of your vehicle. Till then, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 93.
This past summer saw a cross-country celebration of the world's most prolific automobile, the Volkswagen Bug. Since 1949, over 23 million Bugs have been produced, far surpassing the production of even the legendary Model T Ford. This was the scene as hundreds of bug lovers from all over North America gathered for the second annual Great Canadian Bug Show in Toronto.
Last year we came up with the idea and put it on. We had 178 cars. This year, with the 40th anniversary and everything, we decided to put it in Toronto, Calgary, and also Coquitlam, BC. Our figures that are in have Coquitlam at 150 cars, Calgary's at 69 cars, and there's snow on the ground and it's +1 degrees. It's August 23rd. And here we have 274 cars. That could very well be, even in itself, one of the largest Volkswagen Bug shows in North America. We have people coming in now. They've heard of us, you know, right down to Tennessee. I've had phone calls from. There's a gentleman from California at VW Trends magazine who is here shooting for an article that'll appear, I believe, in the January issue. And he's also spying out some of the nice Canadian cars that they don't usually see in California.
Oh, I'm from Salem, New Hampshire. Came up from the States for the show. This is a 1949 Hebmuller convertible. It was manufactured as the first Volkswagen convertible ever. They made 796 of them from 1949 through early '52. The factory burned a month after they started production, so they began piecemealing them after the burning of the factory. This particular car I bought about 5 months ago and have totally restored in 5 months. There are 23 that we know of on the North American continent. Terry Schuler's car, the car behind me, the black and white one, is a fairly famous car around the country. He was the president of the club for many, many years. They're the only two that are around right now.
Ist denn das die Möglichkeit? Dem werde ich jetzt zeigen. Wollen doch mal sehen.
How safe is the car you drive? Well, it could depend on its color. According to British research, the safest colors for a car are yellow and brown. The least safe colors are black and red. These results were reached by dividing a year's worth of British accidents by the colors of the cars involved. Red and black cars get poor results because they're colors of choice for sporty cars driven by men, the group with the highest accident rate. Mercedes-Benz also did a study and found that the best way to ensure your car is seen on the road is to simply keep it clean and the chrome bright.
Our Midas tip of the week concerns fan belts. Now, it wasn't so many years ago that the typical vehicle had 3 or 4 V-belts, just like the ones I'm holding here, driving all its accessories. Now, today's vehicles are running more and more towards the multi-rib or serpentine type belt, where one belt winds its way around every single accessory, driving them all. Now, the common denominator to belts is the fact that they all do fatigue and wear out. They're rubber and fabric, and they will have to be replaced periodically. Now, every 4 years is a pretty good rule of thumb for belt replacement, but it's a good idea to always keep spare belts on hand that will fit your vehicle properly, because if and when they do fail, it's not a big deal to find somebody with the correct tools and know how to change them. But there's such a myriad of different lengths, widths, and sizes, types of fan belts available today that you may not find the right one you need if and when you need it. So keep a spare in the trunk. That's your Midas tip of the week.
Pretty cool shades, eh? You know how long it takes your eyes to get used to a pair of sunglasses? 26 minutes. I've got some more news on driving and vision when I return in Kenzie's Corner.
Kenzie's Corner with Jim Kenzie.
George Bush isn't the only one who has a problem with that vision thing. Some of you viewers might be having a vision problem right now. There, is that better? Now, driving obviously incorporates a lot of vision requirements to it. I'm not just talking about sight, but vision. Now, the sports vision experts say that sight is what you're born with, but vision is a skill that can be learned, and you can be trained to get better at it. Now, sports vision people also say that one of the reasons that the truly great athletes are better than your average run-of-the-mill superstars is that they can process visual information much more quickly. That's why Nigel Mansell or Scott Goodyear is as comfortable at 240 miles an hour on the racetrack as you and I are at 60 miles an hour on the highway. Now, you don't have to have the vision of a Formula One racer to be a good road driver, but there are some things that you can do to improve your vision. The first thing is to look well down the road. If you're looking at the horizon, you not only get more advanced warning of potential problems like construction sites, an erratic driver, or even a radar trap, but it also lets you steer the car more straight. If you're looking 30 or 40 feet in front of the car, it's very difficult to maintain a true trajectory. This is a big contributor to the type of accidents where a car drifts off on the shoulder, the stones and gravel scare the driver swings back onto the pavement, shoots into the median strip, and rolls over with catastrophic results. You can also improve your vision by constantly moving your eyes from down the road to the side view mirrors, to the rear view mirror, to the instruments, and back down the road. Not only does this give you a better idea of what's going on around you, but it also helps train the eyes to improve the muscles and allow you to change your point of focus more quickly. You can also work on your peripheral vision. As you're driving down the road and a road sign comes by you, wait till the very last minute, take a quick glance, and see how many of the words you can read. By practicing this skill, you can actually improve your peripheral vision. If your vision improves, you get to be a better driver, and if you're a better driver, I've got a better chance of getting home safely. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Next week on Motoring 93.
Karting is the basics of the grassroots of racing. A lot of people start here at the age of 7. They go right up. The oldest one that we've had here is 65 years old.
We have a lot of feature changes. In fact, so many that I can't list them all. There's up to a couple of hundred feature changes in the sedans alone. Under hood, engine refinements, many suspension refinements, interior refinements. A lot more to improve the ride, comfort, and the general sophistication of Jaguar, which is a hallmark of the car, but we think that the 1993s will make us a lot of friends.
Well, I'm afraid I've got to end the program this week with some rather sad news. I wanted to show you the overall winner in the Corvette show here at Wasaga Beach, but guess what? He left. But I can tell you it was a 65 Roadster, and it was white with a red interior. There you go. That's it for now. We'll see you next week for more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
Motoring 93 has been brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil. And Midas, your under-the-car specialists for imports and domestics.